So I'm really excited about today's video because we're hitting a lot of very important keywords here. We're gonna not only be making a granola from scratch that is stupid crazy easy, but it actually is gluten-free and contains wonderful, beneficial whole grains. And it's a great recipe for those of you who may not have a grain mill yet and want to consume whole grains. Plus, I'm going to be sharing with you what we do for cereal here in our house as a whole grain, whole milling family. And in this video, we're also going to be using a grain that I don't use a lot around here, and that is actually buckwheat. So let's get started. Hey y'all, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel, I teach you all about real whole grains, all from a biblical perspective. I teach you how to be milling your own grains, why you should be consuming whole grains, and more. So like I said, this is a pretty simple recipe. I'm gonna be showing y'all a granola recipe that is super easy and actually does not take much time at all to make, but it's also gonna be a gluten-free one because the main grain that we are using in here is actually buckwheat, specifically toasted buckwheat. And I'm gonna be talking throughout this video the difference between toasted and the untoasted or raw buckwheat because it does matter. And also gonna be kind of showing y'all what we do for cereal in this house. Being a whole grain family, we typically do not buy typical cereal because it's, usually filled with lots of sugar. It's not as filling. It's typically not really whole grains, all of those things, but there is one exception, and I'll be showing you all that as well using this granola that we'll be making. So let's get started. Okay, y'all, this is actually gonna be crazy, stupid, easy, and you're gonna wonder why in the world you haven't done this before. The beauty of granola is you can really customize it to what your tastes are. They're basically always just a common element. There's some sort of grain, some sort of seeds, usually some sort of like dried fruit, and usually some sort of nuts if you like that, and then the flavoring. So what we're gonna be doing is what makes this a gluten-free granola is we're actually going to be using buckwheat. Now this is toasted buckwheat, and it's actually from a new company. They did send me these grains, and they're actually sponsoring this video, but this is Doma, and the cool thing about them is they actually get their buckwheat from farmers where buckwheat basically originated from. And that is in a country that I'm always mispronouncing, and it's Kazakhstan. And that is where that is the region where archaeologists believe that buckwheat actually originated from. And despite its name, it is not a wheat. It is a gluten-free type grain. And I did a video all about buckwheat. If you really want to dive into that, you can check that out up here, and I'll link it in the description box below. But I will say their grains that they've sent me, they are very clean grains. You don't have to rinse them. You can mill them just fine. They are, of course, non-GMO, grown from great farmers as well. So I will link their grains down in the description box below if you're looking for a good source. Plus, I will also have a coupon code for you as well, so you can save off of your first order. So check that out, description box below, also up here on the screen. But one thing I do want to point out is these are toasted buckwheat groats. You can buy buckwheat either toasted or untoasted, or known as raw buckwheat. It makes a difference what you use, because it makes a difference with like the cooking times, the flavors, those type of things. So this is toasted buckwheat, so keep that in mind. That is a difference. If you have the raw buckwheat, no problem. You can toast it yourself. Just throw it in a pan and just lightly toast it until it gets this nice dark kind of brownish color. So there you go. But I do recommend checking out the video all about buckwheat, because buckwheat is a fascinating grain. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention, be sure to be preheating your oven to 325 degrees while you're getting everything together. Okay, so we need 1 cup of toasted buckwheat, where you don't need to mill it at all. And then you need some sort of nuts, 1/2 cup of nuts. These are almonds, just some chopped or sliced onions. You can use walnuts, pecans, whatever nut that you like or maybe have on hand. Then you also generally want to use some sort of seed. This is a 1/4 cup of flaxseed is what I'm using, but pumpkin seed, sunflower seeds, whatever you like, use that. But flax seeds are really great. They have a lot of nutrition in that, so boost the power of the granola. And then we need some sort of dried fruit, a 1/4 cup of dried fruit. I'm using raisins. I've done craisins before. You can do apricots, whatever favorite dried fruit you like. That is a 1/4 cup of dried fruit. Do you know that this recipe, printable recipe, will be in the description box below. Then you need 2 tablespoons of an oil. This is coconut oil or another type of vegetable oil. And then we need 2 tablespoons of either maple syrup or honey. For me, this is purely flavor based and I want to go with more of a maple type flavor. So this is maple syrup. And then we need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We need 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. You don't like cinnamon? Leave it out, no problem. And then of course we need a pinch of salt. So I'm just keeping this at hand. This is my Redmond salt. I like to make this as nutrient dense as possible. And I love Redmond salt because it's a very nutrient dense salt. I also have coupon codes for you down below. All right, and then all we do is basically we're gonna melt the oil over the stove, mix in our wet ingredients. We're gonna combine, whoops, making a mess. Oh no, oh well. We're gonna combine our dry ingredients here in a bowl, and then we just add the liquid ingredients in with the dry ingredients, we mix it together, and then we bake it in an oven. Voila. So let's get this melted liquid stuff mixed together. I'm gonna clean up the mess that I just made, and we'll get this together, lickety split. Add in, so again, that's 1 cup of buckwheat. Then we need our dry ingredients. So there's our fruit, our nuts, our seeds, our cinnamon, and then add in our, pinch of salt. And I'm just doing this while that coconut oil is melting. And easy peasy, just kind of stir this up together. Biggest thing is you just want to make sure that everything is coated evenly, including when we add the wet ingredients in here. So now I've melted the coconut oil, and so I'm just adding in the maple syrup and the vanilla extract. Stir this together. Now this recipe actually was provided by Doma. It's right there. They have a few recipes on their Amazon store. So if you're not sure what all you can use with their buckwheat, they have a few recipes for you, which I think is really cool. And we're going to add in all of that. And especially at this point, you want to make sure that everything is coated pretty evenly. All right, and that looks pretty good, all nice and coated. Now you want a large baking sheet covered with parchment paper, less dishwashing win. And then we just pour out our granola. You just want a large enough baking sheet where you can spread this all into basically just one type of layer, into one layer, excuse me. So that way it can all toast pretty evenly. Now, we bake it, and we're gonna be baking it for anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes until the granola is kind of a golden type brown. I am gonna set a timer to stir it up about every 7 minutes or so. That way it can all be getting even as possible, because remember, your granola, you want to be crunchy, but you want it to be uniformly crunchy. Okay, so there you go. I'm gonna put this in my preheated 325-degree oven, and then every 7 minutes, be turning it, and we'll see if we need 20 or 25 minutes, and I'll see you back here when it's done. Okay, so while the granola is baking, I kind of want to show y'all what we do for cereal in my house. Now, we do not consume cereal on a regular basis. It's actually mainly my husband that will have cereal, because it's a pretty good, easy snack type item for him to have. But the reason I mainly don't do cereal, conventional cereal in my house, is first of all, I have a lot of kids, and that's a lot of milk. And also it just doesn't fill up my kids' very well as opposed to other items like toast and eggs or pancakes or waffles or muffins, all made with 100% freshly milled wheat. That's what fills my kids up, where when it comes to cereal, they have to eat like 2 bowls in order to have it. Cereal also just flat out can be expensive. So let me show you what I do for cereal to make it as wholesome as I can. I am not making all the cereal from scratch in this house. I can't do everything, y'all. There are some things that I'm going to outsource. But what I like to get is basically bran flakes. This is from Aldi right here, bran flakes. Now, by itself, kind of boring, but really the ingredients in this one, all this is whole grain wheat, wheat bran, sugar, brown sugar syrup, salt, barley malt extract. That's really it. It doesn't have that much sugar in it either. But how my husband actually told me how to do this, and it works out really well. But basically we just maybe fill a bowl with like half of bran flakes, and then I put granola on top of that. So that way it gives it some flavor, makes it more interesting, but also giving that whole grain goodness, especially when it's granola that I'm making here from scratch. And just whatever granola that you like. That's what I like to add on to, just simple bran flakes that I buy from the store. And then I would never use raw milk ever in my house because that would just be crazy. And then there you go. And then that's how we consume cereal here in a family that, where we're all about those real whole grains. So that's one way that I can have that, not too much work for me. And it's kind of like a nice little compromise. Okay, so I did mine for 22 minutes. And here it is. And you may be looking at it and thinking, this does not look like granola. Never fear, because at this point, you actually need to let it completely cool down. So I just leave it on here on a cooling rack. And I'm making this in the evening, and I'm just gonna let it completely cool down overnight. And as it cools, it actually gets crunchier. So we are going to let these cool. These Doma grains are really great, especially because the only buckwheat that I had was actually raw. I've never done, I wasn't really familiar with already toasted buckwheat. So it's really cool that it eliminates that one step. I do recommend, guys, check him out. And it's also great because buckwheat, especially for me, is not really a grain that I use a lot of. I don't need a 50-pound bucket. I don't need 50 pounds of this. So I love that I can get them in smaller bags, smaller portions. So I have it for whenever I have recipes like this. Okay, so that's it, y'all. Really, let me know if you've tried this recipe, if you are familiar with buckwheat, toasted buckwheat or raw buckwheat. Let us know in the comments below, because it is a grain that we're just not as familiar with here, especially in the United States. So be sure, again, to check out Doma Grains. I think it's really cool that I'm getting buckwheat from the place that from the area that it originated from. I mean, how cool is that? This is an old, ancient grain, and buying it from those places, I think is really cool. Again, they're non-GMO, they are clean grains. They have other grains as well that I have tried, excellent quality. So again, be sure to check them out in the description box below. And if you want to learn all about buckwheat, the nutritional benefits, the history of it, all of those fascinating things, then check out this video right here. I took a deep dive, and you can too, to learn more about these wonderful whole grains. As always, I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.